You'll open it up and they'll take your information.
So second shop.
Right.
If you really love. We go back and forth.
Well, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
No.
I'm gonna say nothing. That's good. Yeah.
No.
Which is what I thought. Where did you get some?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I think it's because
Yeah, we're gonna have to pick it up.
else did.
I'm done.
Some other projects?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
Still my chair.
Is it where you send?
Did you need one?
Good, how are you doing? You guys, that what? Send it to you.
I bought a
She's the one. Where at?
West Main. That's who I was thinking, that's where, yeah. Bottom block. So. It was the worst.
That's there for the.
Yeah, I know,
So take me to the break. You said West Main.
Yeah, I'll just say whatever.
Yeah, I know where you're at. Yeah, just I can't picture.
Well, if you want to get in place, I don't think we have a set contract.
But right now.
I think it's just, I think we have.
But we're not.
Sure. We still. Probably.
35.
I'm sure there are.
What's it look like?
You got 5?
Yeah.
All right, I'm coming to sit down with a 5% bill. Somebody sit back there. I'm gonna come
Yeah,
sit.
what's iron?
To be a part of here. So I can do it. Yeah. Big day.
I had an umbrella with me. I have one, I left it in the car. So it's raining on the way out.
Yeah, I mean, it's still. Like.
It's so hard to see. Okay.
You agree? With what I said?
So it's going down by. I do like. Why would I see now?
Do you want it to? It doesn't.
The greenhouse bill.
They just built.
They just don't.
But I agree. At the school. Did you get a copy of that?
I did not.
He sent them out. Depending on what time it is, you might not, you may get there. Anyway. 3 years.
I don't know that I brought on.
No. Greenhouse.
It's big.
I got.
I see that.
I can read it real quick and then.
Let me see if I can copy that.
Yeah.
I thought I brought a copy.
They would.
Oh, I don't know, one budget for,
Because superintendent was like,
she had a heart on me for some reason, one work last year, she's the one that got the grant.
Yeah.
And literally nothing has been done. So all winter long, they ran that heat in there.
Hey, Jay.
Money.
See my truck when we're done.
could have brought plants and everything else at the main market, sold them.
That's
And the
how.
base make like $3,000-4,000 off that stuff.
Now they can do it.
No, it's too late.
Yep.
I honestly was hoping they were gonna do it. But I don't understand. Do they bring it? Huh? I only want stuff that produces. If it doesn't produce food, I'm not gonna, I'll put a rock there.
Could be a rabbit. I'm starving again. Flowers. I didn't know. I mean, I've been plenty of flowers.
No, but they moved their best part. And then they moved it right where the, I don't know if you're familiar with the accidental barn back.
Maybe 6:30.
Yeah, it makes no sense. They actually killed the parks. They can't park the same way. And in order to get in and out of it.
I know.
Okay.
I was hoping she didn't have to turn the copier on, but,
Oh, so we got that.
so we'll hand them out.
Yeah.
All right, we'll call the plan commission to order. We've got, I think, 2 official things on the agenda and then 1 to follow up on. Perfect. We'll do this in a few minutes, but here's the minutes from the last meeting, which I missed. And, thank you, Jack. I don't think he's here tonight, but he ran the meeting evidently. Took the minutes. He did a good job, yeah. Sent those to me today. You got one, didn't you?
Yeah.
For the official record? Okay. All right, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and get to the items on the agenda here. The first is a special use permit request for a home occupation. And the party asking is Ellen Leaf. She here?
I am.
Perfect. Instead of, we'll just let you kind of, if you have any statements first. We have a packet here, but just if you want to talk a little bit about it, you can ask questions.
Sure. Do I need to stand?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
Although we do need to have
I figured.
a list where everybody sign in.
Oh.
I'll get one.
Okay, So-
So I've lived in Lebanon here for about 25 years, and some of you know me from Fezziwig's Marketplace. So that is still in business, but my ex-husband and I sold it a couple of years ago, and I am starting a new business, which is called A New Leaf Company, and my last name is Leaf. So my education in tea continues with Fezziwig's, and I am actually studying herbalism to just add on to that. So one of the things I would love to do is, what I'm going to do is have an herbal and edible flower garden in my space that I just purchased on West Main. AJ is my next door neighbor. I'm so lucky. And so I'm growing herbs and flowers there. I'd like to have a special use permit in order to do small seminars, so I can teach people about how to use these wonderful plants and cook with them and what they do for their bodies and their brain. I'd like to have these seminars during the daytime or early evening. This is not going to obstruct any parking, any of my neighbors. They're all for it. I'm building the gardens now, so everything is water permeable. And I'm taking up less than 30% of my land. All in favor?
Anybody have any questions?
I do have a question. So the information that we received about this indicated there was a notice for a public hearing on March 12th. I am curious if that public hearing happened and if there were any comments from that public hearing.
Is that a question for me or Luann?
Can potentially answer that.
Well, actually, that was the notice, right, Luann? For this hearing? Because I think we are officially having that hearing.
This is the public.
Yeah,
hearing.
I think it has to be published
Okay,
at least 15, but not more than 30 days
Okay.
in advance, yeah, so. This will be where the comments come.
okay. So then I misread that. So the other, I guess, question I have
Sure.
is you indicated your neighbors are all for this.
Mhm.
I don't know what the parking situation looks like on street, off street parking for residents. How much typical on street parking there is during the times when you have people. The information that I've reviewed also indicated that these seminars would be 1 or 2 times a month with 12 to 15 people.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So I guess my question is, are there any adverse impacts to street parking for the residents? Any concerns that anyone has about that?
I'll speak. My name is AJ Dotney. I am Ellen's direct neighbor. All of you know me except for the exception of you. I just gave up my plan commission seat a couple months ago due to personal reasons. I have offered any and all parking at my residence in my driveway in front of my house in support of this. We have lots of on-street parking. Ellen has quite a bit of off-street parking behind her house also. And I've gone as far as to tell her if she needed to park cars in my backyard, she could. If there was an overflow, but I don't think there will be.
And generally, all of the available parking on street is not full during the times, so.
Not unless there's a party.
Yeah, we usually have quite a bit of on-street parking, but plan commission usually asks about off-street parking. And she has probably 4 spaces off-street.
5 if they're small.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they park diagonally, I can fit 5.
Okay.
So a couple other neighbors on Belleville Street have also offered their parking in the back that they're not using. So anyway, my place isn't that big.
I'm sympathetic to the parking situation, but we have a parking problem in Lebanon. And I don't, parking is not gonna go away. We're growing slow,
Mhm.
but if it's gonna help the community, then I think we need to get past the parking problem and move forward.
You're here.
I mean, just to come to this meeting, it's starting problem.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't let parking inhibit growth in this town.
I for one want to bring people to Lebanon. I want them to see how wonderful it is. I didn't move away, but I was away in California for about a year and decided, no, this is actually where I want to be. So I got the cutest cottage in the whole wide world right next day.
I'm kind of curious, you read a little bit about it.
Yeah.
You say edible, some of these?
Yes.
What do they taste like?
Well, it depends what you're eating. So, yeah, it depends.
I was just messing with you.
It's all right. I got you.
How are you going to market and how are you advertising primarily since there's no signs on the property?
Yes, so this is a wonderful thing. The new owner of Fezziwig's Marketplace has 17,000 people on the website, which Tim Moore and I built for the last 17 years. And so she's been extremely kind to say, you know what, I will help you market this. So I'm going to use that database as well as my own personal database of frankly, lots of people that know me in this area. So that's actually how, but also, doing festivals and, shows and things like that.
Will you exhibit uptown for our different festivals and so on and so forth events?
Absolutely. When I'm available, absolutely. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, I move that we give the certificate of appropriateness for
Yeah, special use permit.
special use permit, yes. Special use permit for Ellen to start this business at her home.
Do you think we need a
My second.
restriction on how many
Second.
numbers of people that you have?
Say it again, Luann.
How many numbers? Like, if you got 15 people, that's 15 cars unless they double up, so.
Yeah, again, I have, 1,000 square feet in my home. I
Well, that's
can't
what
fit
I'm
that
saying.
many, yeah.
The amount of
I'm saying
space
back-
you have, how
right.
many realistically?
I mean, they're really gonna be more like 12, and people are gonna come together. So I can't imagine we
Yeah,
have 15.
And it's not every day either.
No,
That's the thing.
Maybe twice a
Yeah.
month.
I don't see a need for a restriction personally, because like she said, a lot of them are going to carpool. You may have a group that comes together.
Well, it makes a difference because it's a small house, so
Right.
that
Yes,
kind of restricts it right there.
it does.
I think we probably would, I've got the facts. I'll probably add that to the facts because I don't think that was in there, but it's
How big was your
1,000
house, 1,000?
1,000 square feet on the permit.
1,032 square.
There you go.
If it was at my house, it might be different.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned party, there's probably parties in somewhere in the area more often than that, I would guess. I think what we normally try to limit is, like, if you're trying to run a bakery out of your house and there's like traffic coming and going all the time. But this would be occasional, so.
We have a motion.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, I'll call for a vote. Anybody else from the audience? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Easy enough
And that will be presented at
to the council Monday,
the 14th.
14th, yeah. Monday.
I'll get, the ordinance up and running, getting it worked
the
out so
attorney,
that can
okay.
be voted on that night.
And
Okay.
unfortunately, I will not be able to be present for that. I sing with the Bach Society and then we have a dress rehearsal that evening. So,
Well,
I will attend.
yeah, we normally will have someone there that's making the presentation.
Okay.
It's always helpful, but it's not essential.
Okay.
So I don't know that, I mean, normally
I
it's
don't think
not a
it would matter.
problem, yeah.
Give me
If you had something really controversial, then I'd, like we had, if it's potentially controversial, there would be, more of a need, so. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is recommend approval of, I didn't bring my glasses in. Chelsea Lenzini request for signage present, for the Alvarado Healthcare business on the property at 110 West St. Louis Street. So, anybody there, rep?
Chelsea. Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry if I butchered your name.
No, it was fine. Well, I'm here with, Dr. Marcus Alvarado, who's the business owner.
Hi there.
So we just have wanting to kind of bring some life to that, building that there's on the corner.
Everybody got a packet.
Yeah, on the
So,
very back of the packet, you have the map, I guess, there. So it's on the corner of West St. Louis Street and South Madison Street. So we're wanting to add a sign to the east wall. Everything should be there for you to see and change a color on the front and add a different signage on the front as well as some different exterior lighting.
kind of similar though, isn't it?
It's very, yeah,
It's
similar.
very similar.
Just warm it up a
I
little
like
bit.
the brushed letters. I think they really don't look nice.
Thank you. Well,
Well, it certainly would, maybe not just spruce it up, but folks coming through would know what it was more so than they do now. You have to really come down Brick Street to tell what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it meets all the requirements of our sign ordinance. And so this would be a certificate of appropriateness for the sign in the historic district.
This
Yeah,
is,
if that was in any other district, it would have met all the qualifications.
Yeah, we wouldn't even be talking about it. Yeah,
this is Dr. Fisher's old building, is
Yeah.
that correct? Okay.
yeah. Yes, it is. So if anybody's looking for a chiropractor.
Have it out.
I might come talk to you sometime.
Absolutely.
Is there any comments, questions for them, for anybody? I'm not making the motion, so we're gonna do that. Somebody else needs to. Or we can give it another minute or two if you're thinking about questions. I didn't really have any.
I move we approve it.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Let me get my notes here. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to issue or to recommend to the council a certificate of appropriateness for the sign at 110 West St. Louis. I always want to say that because we don't have the authority to grant it. So if there's no discussion,
Are you doing it all together with the sprucing up of the lights and everything also? Is that all in one motion?
Yeah, that was my understanding, but I'm glad you clarified that.
Would you
Yeah,
please, so
yeah.
that
Yep.
when I put it in that.
The motion is
There.
to spruce up and sign. Yeah, Yeah.
Colors.
Exterior design.
Yeah.
there you go. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I also, I had, Luann had given me a letter on the first hearing that I didn't read, but it was in favor of it was a
One of the
neighbor.
neighbors.
Yeah, that was in favor, so, we'll put that in the record at least. All right, so I think, there's two other things. One was this other letter that we got on the historic district, or the email that you got. And
That's for 120 St. Louis.
the
old Green Tonic building.
yes, yeah. Did you all get a copy of that?
Everybody was sent that email.
Yes.
Okay,
It's on the list.
I guess
It was sent
maybe,
BCC.
when was that sent? That was the second, because I was
This
thinking,
week.
I got it on
Monday, I
March
think, or-
31st. I forwarded it to others because I didn't know who else got it.
well, yeah, and I thought it came from Luann. I didn't even pay attention, but I did read it. So we'll talk about that for a few minutes. And then this other issue on here, we're not doing any action tonight because I haven't done any homework and I doubt whether anybody else has, but we'll talk about it. Okay, so this, the email that came in on the historic district, and I think originally my understanding was the awning that they had on the building was it needed to come down or it was gonna fall on somebody. So they went to replace it and that was the request. But I think what happened was, as part of that, there were some other liberties taken that weren't really understood to be part of that process, because we, we had another property that took down the awning, they left their awning down. But the replacement kind of, I think, when they came up to the city, it's kind of complied. And it was replacing what was there. So that was the understanding of what was gonna be done. Now there's been some other modifications out front. And I think this email brings, in my opinion, brings up some good points that, and I think this is the owner that maybe has got some other buildings and from time to time, this type of thing's been done, so. Anybody have any comments?
Well, I got one kind of question, so as a point of clarification. What was there before? Was that an awning? And the definition of an awning is it's retractable? And
Well, no, it wasn't, no, it was
a canopy?
it was an overhang canopy,
Okay.
yeah, like, yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
similar to what's
Yeah.
there now, but
It has a little more pitch on it now, but that makes sense.
it had posts supported on.
Right.
grade.
Yeah,
And there were tables around
Yeah.
each post.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a,
There were seats around it.
Well, yeah, there was a little,
Seats or tables, whatever you wanna call them.
yeah,
There was already some form of
like a
seating.
bench
there.
or something, yeah.
yes.
There.
Around each one of them.
Mhm.
the question was, is it the awning or is it the other?
It's the other that's the issue, yeah.
What were the others?
It's the railing that they put up.
There's a railing and,
The complaint is the railing.
yeah, and what, the real complaint, I
It's a part of
think,
that.
is, look, we've required this to be approved ahead of time before. And this didn't get approved and why, and it's probably more of a fairness issue than it is. I went by, I didn't have time to look, it was raining, but
Is it a safety issue?
yeah, he took a picture. I think that's a concern, I suppose, yeah, that, it might elicit loitering and
Outside of a bar?
outside of
Oh
a
my
bar,
God.
yeah.
So it was a remove and replace.
Right.
So
Of
if
a-
I understand the process of remove and replace is to replace that which was there before.
Right.
Is there anything there now that wasn't there before?
And that's
And
why
I
I
think
was
the answer is
asking.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, that's why I was asking for the point of
So
clarification.
now we need to go back, what is the historical significance of that building? If the owner, we need to go to the owner and ask them, is there any picture that would show where that is historically accurate?
I'm
I
right
think
here.
that would be
I'm
fair.
doing.
We do have the owners.
Okay.
That would be a fair assessment to look and say, does that represent a historical accuracy? The other is that process issue.
Right, right.
It's the process of how remove and replace is approved through both the design, that would be the architect, who's the oversight of that architect, for the state, maybe.
Yeah, and I think in the case of the overhang, whatever you want to call it, that part was looked at by the city inspector, yeah.
And he ruled that it was unsafe to leave it up. Just like we did with Michelle Rose across in the next block. They were to a point where it would be kind of dangerous, maybe for people walking under, that it could fall, so. That's his, as city inspector, he's allowed to go and to evaluate. The last time something was changed was, those real big old, windows, single pane. They were loose and about to fall out of one of the buildings, so he made the judgment to have it removed and replaced. And so that's his, ability. It's not my ability to approve anything, except that were the ordinance and the rules followed. And that's the only thing I'm in on. Blake did what he was supposed to do. And the other was the designer or owner or whoever decided to change the other parts of the facade, and the benches didn't go through the proper channels.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Jack. It's two parts, really, yeah. One is the process, and the other part is the outcome.
Right.
What it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, for the outcome, you have to look at historical significance. Was it there before? And if it was, you should have that right to put it back. But if it's not, if something's new, then that is a historical district.
Right, and it's.
Right, and any kind of replacement would have been acceptable without probably any need for special approval.
As long as it was, I mean, yeah, as long as it was similar, but if it, like it was pink and it looked different, then I'd say no. I mean, the whole, these rules are sometimes pretty vague, but what is a historic district? What is historic? What does that mean for us? But it is on the National Historic Register, so we do have to follow some process. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could just speak to
Yeah.
it, I'm the owner. I can kind of tell you the process that we went through with it and thinking. So Blake came out, did an occupancy inspection, wrote up the awning. As everybody here knows, that awning wasn't doing too hot, like plenty of awnings, so, or whatever we wanna call it. The dimensions of it are no different than it was before. There was like, whatever you wanna call it, ledges or seating around those barrels, but those barrels were rotted out, so we removed them and we anchored the posts to the concrete. The roof, the only reason the pitch is different, the whole reason that overhang had an issue was because the pitch wasn't steep enough. And that water pooled there and basically deteriorated the wood on the underside of that,
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's got a problem with the extra pitch. I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as like the color, the materials and everything, I mean, it's hardy board, 60-year slate, there was shingles there before, there was wood there before. All we really did was upgrade the material a little bit to blend exactly like it looked before. And if you look at a picture of it before, the only difference you're gonna see is barrels versus no barrels with those ledges. There were ledges. Our intention was never to materially change the building or the character of it. I think if you look at it, you can see for yourself. It's had a very positive response overall. And we worked with the city as best as we could hand in hand throughout the process. So we weren't trying to make a secret about anything. We were out there. You can always come and talk to me if you want to. My name is John Hughes. But you know, we wanted to take something that was there and make it solid and sturdy for years to come. And that's exactly what it is now. And at the end of the day, I can respect the loitering concerns. That is a fair issue to raise. We are willing to put up signs on those posts detailing that ordinance with writing the way that the city would be satisfied with, to make sure that nobody is out there. The thinking behind it is when we shut down the street for events, people are on the sidewalk, they are outside, they are eating and entertaining with their family. That's something that would be there that would draw more people to the street. When you look at it online and you see the reaction everybody's had, it's been very positive and they do like it. And back to kind of what Ellen was saying, you know, the idea is to bring people to Lebanon for positive reasons. And I think that definitely accomplishes it from a front side facade look. But you know, our goal was never to change it. It was just to set it up to last for a long time. And that's exactly what it will do now. So.
And I think the quality of the material that you have used on it,
Yeah.
I think the roof really looks awesome. It really does.
It's a 60-year slate and it's hardy board on the underside.
I was worried the night they were putting up the frame and the storm was coming.
Well,
That was the right day to do it.
That's a fair point too. I mean, but think of it this way, it went through that storm
Yeah,
just fine.
exactly.
And I mean, it is built to last. And I mean, I own buildings on the street here. A lot of you have worked with me before. You know, I have an open door policy. You can call me, talk to me whenever you'd like. I take pride in the work, just like this town takes pride in what's here. You know, and I mean, I think the goal ultimately is to have Lebanon maintain its character and its charm and stay here for the long haul. And that's exactly what our thinking was when we were doing this.
I agree with everything John just said. Having those out there doesn't negate the ordinance that we have against drinking on the street. That ordinance still stands. You know, it's not going to cause any more or less loitering on the street just because those are out there. You still have your ordinance that does not allow drinking on the street. The proprietors of that building still are not going to let their patrons drink on the street just because those are out there.
Yeah, when I saw the,
That's mine.
Lynn,
Okay, this officially is my last planning committee, okay?
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to say, is that we don't need more signs put up because we have all kinds of signs up and down here and nobody pays attention to them.
Right.
I was gonna make that point.
I have people aim at the no U-turn sign to make a U-turn to come in here to pay their money.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not gonna pay attention to them, and I think it'll just make it look tackier.
yeah,
I agree.
And so with that, and also I need to say this. And John, I've worked with you many times, and you always try to go as far as you can without coming and talking to us. And this is a perfect example is, you know, when you do something on the street in the historical district, this isn't your first rodeo. You don't come in and tell us everything you're gonna do. It kind of like drips, like you might get an idea and then you go do it. You can't do that. You've got to come talk to us or them.
We
You
were
ain't gonna be talking to
speaking,
me anymore.
well, we were speaking with Blake throughout the process. It's not like we were trying to hide anything, you know, but I can't always guess what the expectation is of everybody either.
Well, the expectation is when you change anything on this facade, it has to come to plan.
You can say that, but there's-
Unless that it's a maintenance thing that he gets the rule on. He doesn't get the rule on if you could put different lights up or you can change the paint or anything. That's their job. Like this is
unfortunately.
structural.
There's been plenty of times though that people have come in here and they've been told, oh, it'll be fine, just go ahead and do it. And then it comes back to plan commission.
Well, here's the thing. I've never said that to people.
Well, there's a remedy to that. We've got a city inspector. simple.
That was kind of my impression
That's
of
the
it.
revenue director.
Well, then you need to have them rewrite
If
their
he-
rules.
Well, if the city inspector passes it, he gets one step forward.
He passed the awning,
Then he
the
passed.
If he
structure.
didn't pass the rest,
He didn't
then-
pass the rest.
then he can't do it.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody's got a position here. Inspectors is structural. Make sure that somebody doesn't get hurt. The planning commission is more design worthy of what's appropriate uptown, and that's your responsibility. It's not mine to say, hey, John, I like it, because I do it. But as the clerk's responsibility is to inform people of what's allowed and what's not allowed and steer them in the direction that they need to go.
I think one point I just would make, and I mean, you talked to me about the painting, which is fair. We'll be painting this salon, which I'm happy to put in front of the commission, which is why we haven't done it yet. You know, with this, on an occupancy inspection, we get a notice saying you need to fix these items. It doesn't sit there and say, you need to submit this through the planning commission before you do this awning. There is no detail of any of that. Now, it's not my goal to circumvent anything here. I want to follow the procedures and processes I do. You know, at the end of the day, when you write up something on occupancy, you gotta fix it, right? Otherwise, we're not gonna occupy the building. So that was literally where we were coming from with it. It wasn't anything intentional. We didn't have anything to hide. And I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I'm always open to make sure that we follow the right way. My office is always in contact with Blake, always with the city hall, trying to make sure that we do it the right way. But I think one thing that might be helpful is if we are gonna write something up on occupancy, then maybe we do detail this as something that would be submitted through a planning commission. Because that was never detailed to us, it was never mentioned to us, it was never said to us.
Yeah,
So,
question is it in the historic district? Then here's another set of things you have to do. And the mayor's had her hand up
The
for a long
mayor
time.
wants to say something to her last official meeting.
What he's saying, what he's saying right now doesn't coincide with what Luann's saying. You have a history of stay on the outside. So what you just said doesn't apply to what she said.
we painted one time without it going through a planning commission. That was the only mistake we've ever made, and it wasn't an intentional.
My
But
turn?
all of our stuff is occupancy. Everything we do on is occupancy permitted.
You're in the historic district, that has a different set of rules.
It's just like a council meeting, you don't matter.
Let's not go there.
Bang, bang. My turn.
Oh,
All right.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I would just like to point out something that the restaurant that was there before Brick Street Parlor coming in was allowed to have tables out on the sidewalk and serve food and beverages.
Yeah.
Just saying. Was this done 100% right? I understand John by saying it wasn't written up. Or it was failing, but it wasn't instructions to come. You know, hitch a horse to it. I mean, I think that, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure Josh isn't gonna let anybody out of that door with a drink in their hand and go, yeah, go ahead, unless the street is closed in his area, and I made that perfectly clear. But he can have a sign on the inside, but just remember, we allowed someone to be served out there, and he's not serving out there. And it looks good. Facebook is getting a lot of positive reactions. I've not seen one bad. I've heard 3 people say it, but I haven't seen them say it on Facebook. So that's
Be
it for
real if
my
it's not on
final
Facebook.
meeting.
Excuse me, if I
Yeah.
might say,
Yeah,
the loitering concerns, what concerns do you have as far as loitering?
I don't know that we had any
We don't have
concerns.
it.
This was a email that was sent to all of us, so where are they?
Not here.
I have a concern.
Go ahead.
I do have a
I
concern.
can address it.
And,
Come in.
Jack Mitchell from the planning commission. I've been here 7 years.
Nice
I
to
am
meet you.
not a native of Lebanon,
We don't care.
but I pay taxes here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of signs on that street. No parking. I would take them all down. all of them. No U-turns, I would take them all down.
Since nobody.
No this, no that, I would take them all down because we don't enforce the code. I would also take down the 2 beer signs. That 2 years ago, I said they need to be removed, and that's been, they've given 1 year notice. If we remove the bar or the appearance of what is alleged, then the 2 beer signs come down.
I was on the plan commission back in 1991 and we were talking about this beer.
Yeah, so we either take the action that's required. And it may be unpopular, but it will not be out of malice. It'll be out of a standard. And we'll go with it. But I'm not vehemently opposed, but I do feel that the process was broken in this case. So whether it should be removed or it should be put for an approval, I believe it should be. Because I just think it should have public comment and everybody should have the right, and we should vote on it and have the right to say no, or it needs to be removed or it doesn't. And I would package the whole signs and the beer signs all in one package. Don't separate them out. Put them all together.
That was the point I was making, is other things have not gone the proper channels
Right.
and been allowed to stay.
Yeah,
We need to look, and we could beat this dead horse. We need to look at the way things are done and we need to fix that.
I just want it historically accurate, but if you could show me something where it is, I would be grateful for that.
What does that gain us though? What is that historically accurate? Like, if it's done to spite our face and then people are trying to set up shop here and do different things. I mean, I can walk down this, I've lived here for 10 years. I can walk down the building like, oh yeah, that's an old building. That's a 19th century building. Like,
Right.
it's obviously historical, right?
Right.
I don't care if there's ledges outside, because when I go places, I like to just post up and eat and drink or hang out at a table and loiter. That's what you're supposed to do at places of business. You're supposed to hang out and patronize them. So
Right.
quite frankly, like, I don't know why we want to put any more roadblocks to, if it was like an egregious thing, like you painted it like some sort of just neon green and there was all sorts of crazy, that's one thing. But I'll bet you money I can go find a 19th century photo of a building like that with chest high tables outside. I guarantee I could. I
Sure.
bet money on it. And so
Then show them to me.
I don't think we need to have, I mean, some of this stuff is worth the brain cells and I think the breath to worry about it. But to me, this is like, I get the concerns about preserving the history of places. But I can tell you right now, the folks like, I say younger, like my age, younger like that, like, we don't care so much about that. Like, and we're gonna spend our money where it's convenient, where it looks nice, where we're taken care of, where folks are friendly. And Lebanon has that in spades. Like this place is awesome. Like we have all this historical stuff. We have all these events. People know, like we're proud of that. So let's be proud of that. But I don't think we need to stop progress or keep people, if I'm trying to open a business and I know like, Lebanon has all this minutia and red tape to go through or this other town doesn't, I'm going to go elsewhere. Like I don't think we need to cut off our nose to spite our face. We can do both. I would understand if we had a super strict enforcement of the code to date. I can appreciate that a modification was made and maybe it wasn't run through planning commission, but like in the grand scheme of things, I live here, I see this stuff too. Does it bother me? No, I'd rather have a cool place to hang out or eat, drink or anything else. So, I want to spend my money in the town I live in, and I prefer to do that with folks who want to actually beautify and improve things, even if it's a little bit different than it was. I don't think that's an issue, honestly. I really don't.
Every building on the street has been altered.
Yes.
Nothing's
Every building. So as far as historic, it's an old building, but it doesn't have.
St. Charles, Missouri, folks, St. Charles, Missouri, that's how you do historic districts. That is how you do historic, they are drowning in money over there. And you know what? They've got modern this and that, knickknack shops, ice cream, they've got signs. No one doubts the historical nature of it. It's beautiful. You can tell that, but like they are doing it in the way that makes sense because they're doing it and not being a hindrance to folks trying to like open up shop, but they're still enforcing code. You can tell there's codes there. They have all sorts of stuff. The way, lawn care and stuff's done, signage, things like that, but they're doing it right. I think we need to have more of that and less of that.
Well, I agree with you, in many points, except for adherence and a restriction.
But don't you
I
think-
recall many meetings that were called short notice, 2 weeks to get things approved. As a matter of fact, I know of 6. So we also had a business on the Brick Street. So I
Don't you
know
think though
about
that
this.
the whole. The bee in the bonnet with this email is the drinking, that's the bottom line.
Well,
They're
there
not-
will be a cause and
They're not
effect.
considered, they're not concerned, the person writing this. Speaking for that person,
They don't care about the process.
they don't care about this, they don't care about
Lawyer be drinking.
it's somebody out on the Brook Street drinking. And we've run into this before. Where we've had businesses that got a liquor license and people have been concerned about the drinking, that this was gonna be rampant. And there'd be drunks all up and down the street, and I think that's we're all talking at this level and this email is at a different level. From the way I read it, I mean, the whole historic thing is kind of the basis for maybe making a claim against this.
That's the foot in the door. Right, that's how they get in.
Yeah, well, yeah,
But then they muse the issue, like I said, it's a division of several different issues. One is process, the overarching is process. If I wanted. Yeah. I'm sorry.
The main problem is that ordinance don't do you any good unless you're gonna have somebody enforce them.
Right.
And it's the same way we see people standing outside gas house in the door, smoking and drinking,
Mhm.
and nothing can be done because
But
No,
is it
that's
against,
what have to.
is there an ordinance keeping people
Well, I
from
mean,
smoking on the street?
Well, it's
Nothing
state
can
law.
be done unless the
15
police
feet from
see
door.
it.
And every
And
door is
so-
That's all.
You can be on, you can be walking on the sidewalk,
And
smoking a
Technically, you
cigarette.
can't.
that's it.
Within 15 feet of a door.
But my whole point,
Yeah.
my whole point was that we're trying to be equitable and swift in approving certificates of appropriateness, modifications and changes. Since I've been on this planning committee for 5 years,
We've had special meetings.
we've had plenty of special meetings to be swift, not to be an encumbrance. So there was an inference of encumbering.
Are you been consistent though with that really? That's
Yes.
We've been consistent with like,
Yes, we have.
have there been modifications to structures that have been outside ordinance?
The minutes,
Yes,
the
there
minutes
have
are
been
posted.
signs and things.
Absolutely.
So then in that case,
There
I
have
mean,
been-
if we're gonna pick and choose anyway, it's kind of moot. I mean, it's not like he's doing.
I don't have the right to pick and choose.
There have been
It's
buildings
been
who
done.
put their signs up without coming here. There have been buildings who put their lights up and changed the front of their buildings. That have been told, oh, it'll pass, just go ahead and do it, and then they come to plan commission to be approved. Just in the short time I sat in that seat there. So.
You've had your hand up.
So for one, the last thing you said, 100%, you're sitting behind there and you're saying, I don't have that ability. And I agree with that. I do agree with that. I definitely agree on a personal level with you though. And like, there's no way that you can't go back and when the horses and carriages were going down this street, that there wasn't some form of a ledge. Cause I've never watched a Western movie where you just come out and you just go straight onto that street. So honestly, though, like being a bar, it's going to serve alcohol at it. Honestly, it's a positive that they put something up there because now you can't just walk straight across the street. If anything, it's gonna help you push you to one side or the other, which down where he's at, one side he's got a crosswalk and then you're the other side, you're going down to the corner, which is another crosswalk. So honestly, in that regard, I think he's helping Uptown by one, being safer, and two, you know, if you are loitering outside of a bar, like he said. You know, like
Drop
if
spend
you're gonna post up there,
We're
you're
not
gonna
the
wait.
ordinance committee.
No,
We're not the ordinance, we don't do that enforcement.
no,
So-
I understand that.
And I was merely saying.
No, that's why I
before,
agreed with you.
Right, that I am not, it's not a pick and choose.
No,
go
I didn't
after.
say that. I didn't say it's picking you. That's why I respect what you said, because what you said is, I'm here to
Is
This
it
is, you're
historic?
looking at it like a constitution type thing. Boom, I'm reading it and that's how I gotta defer. I don't get my personal
Mr. Trammey has. a
judgment.
question.
I'm just giving my personal statement.
Ellen, you had your hand up and then we'll go back there. Oh,
Okay.
But I think it looks nice, by the way.
Okay. You know, being a former business owner here, we had Fezziwigs here for 8.5 years. And then we did have to move it to O'Fallon at that point. But, you know, what I think this comes down to is it tasteful? Because it can't necessarily go back to historic, in most cases, because it doesn't fit that any longer. Can it have the same character as a historic? Absolutely. Does it? Yes, it's rustic, but it does. So I actually think the issue that everybody's trying to decide on is it tasteful? Is it tasteful for the city of Lebanon? And is it tasteful for the visitors that are coming? That's just my observation and my opinion.
Ron?
Okay, a couple of comments. First of all, when I saw this going up, my first thought was, did he go to the city? Okay, I wasn't gonna bring it up, wasn't gonna rat him out. That was my question. The fact that he probably should have, absolutely, that it's done. In the historical aspect, I'm one of the historic society. It's important to me, it's important to our group. You talk about historical accuracy. How far back do you want to go? Be historical. 20 years, 50 years, 90 years old. Go back 80 years. Pick a time period and pick out what's accurate. To me, it looks good. It blends in well. I have a problem with it. As far as what's done in the past, without mentioning names, you go across the street. Right across the street, somebody cut a huge hole inside the building, put in roll-up windows, did not ask anybody. Nothing was ever done about that. It's still sitting there. I'm not saying that should be done that way. It should not. But I'm just saying it looks good. Everybody likes it, blends in.
Which is kind of what Ellen was saying in
Yeah,
a way, it's
I think
tasteful,
I've
yeah.
heard that more than once, sir. I'm just, my 2 cents worth for what it's worth. To me, it looks good. It's as close to being an historical record as you're gonna get. We find it. We, in the society, there's all sorts of rules and regulations that everybody ignores in this town that we're supposed to, including the city, on their own property, by the way. Now, I'm not saying we should. We need to keep this place looking as close to this as we can practically do that. That's one of my big issues. You gotta look at practicality. Do we want horses tied up? That would be historically accurate. I don't think we're gonna do that. I'll do that. Anyway.
I do want to say one other thing real quick, and I appreciate the comment. And you know what? I also value the investment in properties. And I'll go on the record
Okay.
that most of the time when businesses come in, I thank them for the value that they put in the community. So I think that is very clear here, that the investment of that caliber on that building is honorable. So that is not in question. It just isn't. So, but I just lay that on the table, just so you understand where I'm coming from.
Well, and part of me was gonna ask if whoever wrote the email was here, otherwise, because we didn't have to address this, all right? But I think it was a healthy discussion.
Well,
Not here.
But we've had
three
enough.
people from the board sent me stuff, so I kind of figured you guys probably want to talk.
I
about it.
received it too, and
Okay.
I asked a couple people from the board to address it tonight, because it needed to be addressed.
Yes.
And I think what we need to do, or what you guys need to do, is maybe have a hearing and say, what do you want this area to look like down here? And revamp the ordinances, because there's nothing worse than the city clerk trying to implement and
And make it work when it's,
make
yeah.
it work and be consistent. When I first ran, that's the first thing people would say. I just want to be, the rules be consistently applied. So that's what I try to do. But if they're so vague and we let this person with the special use do this and this person do that, and that makes me feel very uncomfortable. And I know I'm not gonna be doing it. There's a new clerk coming and they need guidelines that they can follow and follow easily. So things can
progress.
I think someone who is part of the historical society should weigh in on that. I would be willing to do that. I don't know if Ron would also. But I'm a member of the historical society. A lot of the things that get done on this Brick Street do not meet what should be done according to the historical regulations. And that's something that needs.
Well, and I have one more, just one thing to say. The history of this is, I think it was 1990 when this was started as
Yeah.
part of the Plan Commission. They established this historical district, okay, and it's on the register, obviously.
It goes back.
But they're sort of antiquated. I mean, those rules were antiquated, to your point. And it was a committee of 3 people made up of random Plan Commission members. So if someone came up in the middle of between meetings and they wanted to repaint, they would present their plan. And the clerk would call the first 3 people she or he could get a hold of, come up and look at this, make sure it kind of fit. That's not really all that,
Right. But they-
maybe accurate as well, and then if that was the case, if they agreed 100%, all of them agreed, it didn't need to go anywhere else. If they didn't, then it came to the Plan Commission and then to the council. I don't know, I don't know what the right process is, but Leroy Dawson started that, okay? And he was an architect, so he kind of knew that there's nobody around even knows what the intent of that stuff was anymore. So I think it's healthy. I got enough jobs, but I don't, I think it is something that I can tell the council though, look, we need to look at this whole process and this whole, I like Jack's idea. If nobody's gonna force it anyway, then we just need to be tasteful and appropriate and take all the signs down because.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
The further we stray away from those historical guidelines, we won't fit the criteria for
Right,
the historical district at some point.
Right, it's on a register, it's on the national register now, but you lose that and it has to be.
Yep.
I'm sure there's certain certifications you have to go through every once in a
There's
while.
also federal and state laws regarding that
There
have
is.
totally been ignored.
And we probably have the Brick Street grant that was gotten 20 years ago probably required that as well.
There were some other comments.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just have a quick comment. I own a business, but I'm a patron of the Brick Street. And when I first saw that awning go up, I was amazed at how closely they matched the awning to the building architecture, the colors, the shingles. It just put a pop on that building.
oh, it looks a lot better, yeah.
It does look good.
All right. You're all old Lebanese or whatever, and I'm a new Lebanese.
Lebanese.
And, I spent a lot of money to move here. Building a house, love it. And I love the town. Irritates me that the grocery store is gonna die. And, but that's the thing the sign that you see when you come into town, was it 7,300, 72 or whatever?
Yeah.
That's what.
I would like to see every 10 years that go up. Because I don't want to see my property that I spent all this time and effort in go down. And then your only response of if business is not coming here is because there's rules made for no other reason than I can make a rule. I'm not saying you're doing that. I don't know anything about this. But if you chase away businesses, if you make it too difficult, I'm not saying you are, I'm just bringing out a point, then they don't come here. Then they move down to the, whatever, that place, they have a nice donut shop, whatever that one is next door, or Mascuda. I want that number to increase. I want the population to increase. I want the tax base to increase, so it doesn't fall on all the houses, and where all of a sudden the houses are overtaxed and people are moving because they gotta grab their piece while they can. And Lebanon dies. I didn't move here to sit there and live in a dead community, a dying community. I want it to thrive. So I'm sitting here, I'm listening to these things, and I hear all these streets and none of that means anything, except when you say Brick Street, I'm like, oh, right there.
Yeah.
I go to McKendree and I watch the sports and enjoy it. It's cheaper than a movie. And, but I'm enjoying this. I'm hearing community wanting to build. I'm hearing you guys wanting to sit there and work with them. I'm just saying, just keep in mind that you are placing the future of this town, you know, so, you know, do a good job.
Hi, I'm Marcy, I live next door. My husband and I had a business for 40 years uptown here on the corner. I've been listening to the meeting at home and I just had a few comments. I know I contacted the city hall and wanted to know if the project got a certificate of appropriateness, because I was always led to believe that any change on this brick street had to have a certificate. And I was informed by the mayor that that wasn't necessary because they were replacing like with like. And so, okay, it wasn't any big deal. And yeah, the pitch is a little bit different, but that's okay. You know, it looks nice, it's over and done with. But then I saw the ledge out front and I just wondered what the purpose of the ledge is. And then I thought, well, what if somebody gets Ron's and now they want to put a drinking ledge out there too, eating and drinking ledge? And, you know, what if Brewers decides they want to do it too? That isn't their personal property, that's city sidewalk. It's public sidewalk. I would have no problem whatsoever if they had property on the side of their building and they wanted to put them out there. But with what has happened downtown, unless you live down here and see what goes on, I just think it's an invitation, unless somebody's gonna be out there to watch it all the time. Because at 1:30, 2 o'clock, it's crazy downtown. On the weekends, it's loud. There are broken bottles, there are cans. I came in, you know, multiple times I came in and said, look at the garbage out here. The broken bottles, and yes, they did serve people out at Grit and Tonic. They served people outside, but that was during COVID when everybody was allowed to be outside.
That's not necessarily true.
No. When did they serve them? Because I just
They
remember.
did jazz bands in the park when it wasn't COVID. I was one of the people being served at one of those tables.
Yeah.
Barb, that's my business. And I live on the street too.
Right.
So I know what it's like, and I can guarantee you, there won't be any trash in front of my street. There won't be anybody leaving with beer bottles. I'm well aware that I can't serve glass outside during events. It has to be plastic or aluminum. So I'm sorry, we're trying to beautify the town and you're trying to stop me.
No, I'm not trying to stop you. I want you to be very successful.
Well, I appreciate
I
that.
think it's great. I just don't know about the ledge out on the park. The purpose of it is to stand out there and eat and drink.
Yes, stand out there and eat and drink during events, but eat and drink Coke and eat the food that I'm preparing for people
Is somebody
during a
gonna
normal
watch
day.
them? Because that doesn't happen at Brewers, it didn't happen at
That's their
Ron's.
problem, not mine.
And that's what the city doesn't, the police do not monitor. You can call
I
and
can't
they
do anything
don't.
about the police. That's their job. I
And
can't do
that's
anything
the
about it.
only reason.
But as a business owner, I can guarantee everybody in here, I will take care of that.
It's important that you be heard. It's important that you be heard, that we not
I
talk
don't
about.
want to argue, and I
No,
want you to
please-
be very
please make your statement.
successful.
We're listening.
Okay, I don't want to prevent anybody from having a business. I want you to do great. I just see if one business is allowed, what's to prevent another business and another business from doing it?
Can I ask a question, Barb?
Your point is well taken. There's another gentleman that wants to speak.
You spoke on these ledges and then you referred to 1:30, 2 o'clock in trash up and down Brick Street. But your main focus, to my understanding, was the ledges. Do you think those ledges are gonna increase the amount of trash that's thrown
I think
on
it
the
may
streets?
increase people standing around drinking after hours. Because now when Brewers closes, people stand out front and they still continue
Without ledges,
partying.
correct?
They do it with the benches out there. If there were ledges, it might happen
And
too. I
if
don't
there
know.
were no ledges, no benches, people would still stand outside.
Oh, we don't know if they would or not.
I do.
I can answer that for you.
They do it in the park.
99% chance they will stand outside. It's no different than people leaving out of here and stand outside and discuss their opinions about things. It's the same thing when people socialize. So I don't think the ledges play a part whatsoever, in my opinion. Okay, all right. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying you're in the wrong. I'm just voicing my opinion on that being.
I want to say this to the gentleman on the end. I've been in this town longer than anybody in this room. I can tell you, every building that's here, what it used to be. That funeral home, I dug graves by hand. The best way I can say this. We used to be the same size as Highland. Go to Highland now. No comparison. We have a younger generation. This gentleman here been here 10 years. Have even cut his teeth to be 11 now.
Say it. Let's say it's the man.
But that's what's hurt this town. You can't have everything for everybody, most certainly, but we have to change. We have to be flexible. It's just amazing. When I go to Highland now, up there on a regular basis, it's like St. Louis compared to Lebanon.
Huge.
Not even close. That could be us.
No, we have a beautiful square.
That could be us, but we have to kind of give up something to get something. And that's where the dilemma lies. This town historically, the city council, well, that's where it starts and stops. We have no power.
What?
That's all this time. We have no power. We can recommend, that's all we can do. But that's been the problem with this town's growth.
I agree.
The gentleman with the baseball cap. Talk about horses. I remember when Mr. Pickett used to park his horse out here.
I bet you there's a ledge there.
This town hasn't changed that much. That's the problem. It hasn't changed.
Did you have something?
Chiropractor's office used to be the post office.
Y'all just cost me.
Are anybody out there, are you guys here, anybody familiar with Carlinville, Illinois?
Yep.
I'm from Delaware. I grew up in Carlinville, Illinois, lived there for 25 years. They had opportunities to have a glass factory, pork processing plant, a prison, a bunch of other stuff. They said no, because we're gonna preserve the historical beauty of the town. It's full of drugs, gun violence and everything else now. It is an absolute piece of crap. It's falling apart. I would never go back there ever, because they cut off their nose to spite their face to preserve the historical district. There's still people on Facebook arguing about whether you should have a poster in your window if you're selling comic books. It's again, to your point, sir. Whenever I was a kid, my dad used to take me on a Highland all the time when I was a kid to go to the meat processing plant over there. And it was teeny tiny. There's nothing in there. And now it's huge. And if we want to have that kind of growth, like I said, St. Charles is a good point. We can have the historical beauty and the significance of it and pay homage to that. At the same time, we attract and retain businesses here. Because again, I'm 38 years old. I'm gonna be here for, I hope, a very long time. And I want stuff to do. I don't want to have to drive over to O'Fallon or somewhere else to spend my money. I want to spend my money here. I want to have a variety of things to do. And if I look at a building and it's constructed well, it's really good look on the outside. Maybe it varies slightly from some sort of, preconceived notion of historical accuracy. Okay, great. I don't care. If we're doing what we need to do by the historical register, if we're keeping that right, great. And if we're going to enforce ordinances, then we need to enforce ordinances 100% of the time. We can't be picky choosy. So I think, to the gentleman's point again, we probably need to have a point where we sit down and actually decide on what those should be. I mean, because we can't just go back in time and pick and choose. It's just not going to be. It's not productive. It's not productive. And again, Carlinville, case in point, they went hardcore into that, and it's a dump. It's an absolute dump.
If I may, I'm from Girard, Illinois. I know exactly about Carlinville. He's right. They turned
You've
down.
been there, brother, you know exactly how it is.
When I was growing up, Carnival, that was the place to go as a kid. Movie theater,
Hell yeah, it was.
teen center, everything.
Marvel and
I mean,
everything else, Marvel
A
Theater.
beautiful historic town, but they turned away business.
Blackburn.
Yep.
They were too rigid,
My brother.
and when you drive back there now, it's terrible. It's bad. Not that Gerard's ever gonna be Carnival, but you know.
Biggest collection of Sears prefabricated homes in the United States, standard edition, made for Standard Oil, dump, falling apart.
Yep.
For the first 5 years of my life in standard edition, and again, like, when you don't let opportunities happen, people go elsewhere. The people who can't go elsewhere are left with with some choices to make, and it's not, you know, I've been back there, you know, I go back to see my dad, he still lives there, and there's homes for sale everywhere. People's stuff is falling apart. It's awful.
It's depressing.
It is. It's awful.
Well, what say about that, folks?
That was a great
It was
discussion.
a good
Thank you all.
That
discussion.
was a good discussion.
I second
Everybody should have the right to know that what they heard.
Brent,
Yeah.
we still need to do this.
Oh, yeah, the minutes from last meeting.
Well, close this
Oh.
one before we open up
You're gonna
another.
do-
Well, but it wasn't
Oh, this
really,
is for discussion.
this was,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, there wasn't anything on the agenda.
Because it's not like we're gonna tear the thing down.
No.
God forbid.
Get your axe
I don't think we're that extreme.
No.
So,
Meet our compliance department.
Stay there. Be there for another
so
8.
what do we put something on the next agenda to say everything's up there's okay, or I need to know what to tell Paul.
I would recommend we open it for discussion.
Yeah.
Keep it open. Because there's other issues. This is just, let's have it out.
Let's be
People wanna come in
consistent.
and have it out, let's.
Yeah.
When we arrive somewhere, let's consistently arrive there.
Yep.
for future
Correct.
endeavors.
And then let's not revisit it for a while.
Right.
Non-issue.
Everybody, your assignment, if you choose, Mission Impossible, is to think about what we really want to do up here.
I don't know what historic means.
Because it's, for 8 years, it's been very, very rough on
Oh,
me.
for 30 years, 40
This
years.
needs to be looked at, is what it is.
Well, then the process is the issue.
Yes.
It's not people putting in businesses and putting up ledges, it's the process. The process is the stumbling block. So the process needs to be streamlined, ironed out, and then enforced consistently. And I think that's completely fair. And if you had told me that every single time in the last 100 years or so, we've been just nailing that thing down, then I would say to the gentleman, I'm sorry. You should have gone through that and had it approved, but the fact that it has not been, we can't be picky choosy. We have to have a agreed upon code and enforce it consistently every time.
Would agree, wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And it's been tough.
Yeah. When
No.
no consistent, sorry. One different topic, and we do have old business on the agenda that we haven't touched.
Yeah, I didn't want to touch it because I think what we said, this is on accessory buildings on lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we were gonna, some of us had kind of said, well, we'll do a little homework, and I don't think we did any homework. You did homework?
Thank you for making.
All right.
It's ready.
Luann, don't put anything on the agenda next month. We'll address these two issues. Can you promise that? You can.
I can promise it. See, that's fine.
No, now it's something that you have to put in the paper, so you get involved.
Yeah, I do have to do that because you've got a couple of things coming up next meeting, so I'll be putting those in the paper and
So you guys are.
I'll handle it.
Auxiliary buildings.
No, well, and actually, here's what I would say. If you did some homework, right?
I did some homework, but I mean, I think there's stuff that we would want to discuss in more detail about. You know, the discussion was supposed to be, do we think there should be changes to what's in the current
Right.
ordinance? So I think until everybody else is up to speed and ready to discuss.
Well, we need to officially put it on the agenda so we all read that code section in section 36.
And
It is, it's on the agenda, not as it wasn't official.
Right.
It was just,
Like a discussion.
yeah, discussion, but I don't know if anybody has after this.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, you may. You may.
So I can't speak for him because he's one of the reasons, I guess we don't have to stand up here, but, right now, the way I read it, you're at 15 feet. And to me,
Height.
yes, yeah. And I think that is a little. I would, huh?
His house is tall.
Yeah, and so.
28 feet.
Yeah.
If, especially if your house is over that, I mean, I don't know how you're building a house under 15 feet. So I mean, an auxiliary building, even a 2-car garage, I mean, you're gonna be pushing it.
Unless you have a flat roof.
Yeah, but then you're asking for this man's problem, then, you know, and then you're gonna be up here because my stuff's falling apart and you want me to fix it. But no, we have some people here in town, I've heard it. I have too much stuff, whatever your complaint is. Let me put up a building then, I wanna put one up bad, like real bad. So I'm really curious, I'm hoping that, this gentleman next to me can get his, passed. His was the one that was supposed to be on the agenda for tonight, but it did not make it there.
No, not tonight. It was supposed to be.
Zoning
Tuesday.
Board of Appeals.
Oh, they fail it here? Is that what happened?
Well, yeah, the process couldn't be completed because I was inhibited from doing my job.
Yeah, but.
So we are the standard setters, okay?
Right.
So when you're talking about footage and all that, that's us. The zoning board of appeals is if you don't meet those,
Right.
you can still get approval through a process.
Right, but I mean, if coming to the plan commission and like hopefully like a recommendation, like if you're trying. There's, like I said, there's some people that don't like the things, but also those same people. I didn't buy a place in the Knolls, I don't
Right.
own a place in the Knolls. I own a place up here, and I'm not singling out Robin right now, but I'm gonna use her as an example because she's here. She got the tallest garage in town, all right? And she has it, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you go back there and you wanna say that it looks gaudy or you look whatever, I think you're crazy, all right?
Well, her house is tall.
Yeah, her house is tall. I mean, my house is fairly tall, especially because it sits up on the hill. The building would sit down there. I haven't brought it to plan commission yet, but the reason being is because I'm gonna be in the same boat as him. I'm gonna have to get a variance if I want to do it. But basically what you're leaning me towards then, if I can't do it, is now I'm gonna have to attach it to my house. And then you really can't say much about it because it's gonna be attached to my house. And I really don't want to do that. But
Where are you at, by the way?
my parents sold out.
Oh, okay, got it. That's right.
So it's a freestanding building? that
That's
you
what I
want?
would like to, yeah.
Okay.
I
And
would
what
like to be able to
what would
put,
you propose for the modification?
I mean, I would like to see it go to a higher, I mean,
How high is?
ideally in my situation, I would go like 25 feet, but
I don't know where the 15, to be honest, it's been there that way forever. I don't know where the 15.
Fairview Heights, you can't build it taller than your roof.
Okay.
That's their thing.
That's
So
your
you can't
standard.
have
Yeah.
a
That's
50
pretty
foot
easy to
roof,
do.
25-foot tall garage.
It's pretty easy to determine too.
Right.
And then it's like.
I mean, it's like my house, for example, I'm probably at like 30 some feet.
Yeah, because you have the.
Yeah, I got a story and a half house, so like, I would love to build it that high, but it is what it is.
And you can't make everything, it's like, well, everything has to be the same, and that doesn't make sense, because you have an HOA that sits there and says, you can't build a house less than 2,700 square feet. It has to have a brick facing, or whatever, there's rules, but then the neighborhood next to it has a bunch of Sears falling apart crap shacks and stuff, so, you can't sit there and say, well, everything dresses everything, because, me, because I'm here, nobody can look out their front door and see my pole barn. That I don't have yet, but nobody, it's impossible to build it behind me because behind me is a floodplain. And there's woods and a giant creek that apparently will never go away now, because of that train, I think it backed everything up, but I mean, it's a different thing. It's where do you live? Who wants a pole barn bigger than your house? Mine won't be bigger than my house, but I mean, if you're sitting in the middle of the neighborhood, so it's a different set of standards.
Well, you did some of our homework for us. You told us about Fairview. That.
Well, that's, my best buddy.
Comparables are a way to go. Comparable standards, or what is the standard height, right, would be another one for construction if it's changed. For freestanding buildings on on the property. So that's what we're looking for, is those recommendations.
Right, and then I had a general discussion trying to like feel this out in my situation. My wife did with Blake, and he said something that made no sense. He said that if it were behind my house, I'd have no trouble with like attaching, but because it's on the side. And I'm like, well, the way I would read it is, and this is kind of a question and a statement at the same time. Where is considered the back of my house? Because technically I'm
You
building
face two streets.
behind where the back of my house is. However, he's like, well, it would be off to the side. And I'm like, okay, well, if I attach it, what's the problem with that? Because I've never driven somewhere and didn't see house and then they attach a garage to the side of it. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't really understand that. But I guess the other thing is where do you guys define the back of a house?
Most houses have backyards and that you guys have a big side yard too.
But what I'm saying is it shouldn't, at some point you gotta consider it back. You know, it's not the side, it's the back.
If you're on a corner, if you're on any corner lot though, then it becomes an issue because you can see it from two sides, so what's the back, right?
It would be from the principal front of the house.
The address, yeah.
Well, all right, so what I'm saying is like,
I would think.
I got the back of my house, it's like, if this is my house, like, and this is the back of it, all right, and I own a bunch of property, but my house ends here. I own a bunch of property that way. If it's still on this side of the line, which is the very back of my house, is that considered my backyard or my side yard?
Right.
Because it's over here?
I didn't say that, Luann did.
So,
Let's go with Luann under the bus.
That would be.
how's that the side driveway? I'm just asking clear up.
If it's toward a street,
Well, it's a corner lot.
yeah. The
So-
front
But
and the
that's not,
side are.
is that a street?
So, but what I'm saying is like, so now I got,
AJ, our front of my house, the front of my house faces my driveway.
I agree.
The west side of my house is what faces the
I
street.
would consider that as backyard.
and then my next question to you is all right, because this, my wife said it. Technically, my front porch, which is, I can call it my front door, looks out
On the side.
my side yard. You know, like, so like,
So that consider.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like,
Something somewhere.
yeah, I would like.
Well, if he was my neighbor and you was looking out your backyard and, you know, way over on my side, would you rather see a nice building that matches, you know, roof, side and bottom color with my house? That looks nice, sitting on a foundation, looking all pretty? Or would you rather see a pontoon boat, a little aluminum fishing boat, and, you know, these are licensed and insured things, so they're gonna be there. You know, and a 42-foot fifth wheel sitting there and all this other crap. I mean, it looks like Hoosier Town at that point, you know? I mean, you don't have to be that, you know, it doesn't, I mean, you know, everything's new, so it don't look that bad, but still, you know, it would look nicer, you know, and that's the thing, but again, it depends on where it's at. And what are you building? Am I gonna build Walmart in the backyard? Well, that'd be a pretty interfering thing to everybody, but you know, I'm not. So that's why I'm here.
We should say too, like the concerns brought up, they're valid concerns. Like these are absolutely valid concerns. Like, and this is the stuff like, I've never seen so many people at a planning commission meeting. This is awesome. Like to have people getting involved, like you should be. Like your civic duty doesn't end on voting day. It goes all year long. Like you should be part of this. And the concerns are very valid. I think like we had kind of mentioned about having a meeting and maybe trying to figure out what those standards should be. Like we need to be very mindful of addressing folks' concerns and being like obviously respectful of them. And doing so in the scope of making sure that we're not only preserving the historical beauty and the history of our town, but helping it to grow. I mean, that's the whole point. I want to, you know, I bought a home here in 2015. I want to see my property values go up, and I want to be able to walk uptown and take care of most or all my shopping, and I want to know everybody that's out selling stuff. I want people to be out, you know, if somebody's outside of a place but they're having a good time, that's great. You know, people having a good time talking, chatting like that, those are good noises to have, right? Those are good noises. That's why I don't mind the McKendree folks at 5 a.m. when they're hitting the marching band stuff, because that's a good sound. That's pleasant, right? So if we can like beautify the town and grow in that way and do so paying respect to the history, more the better. I think, like I said, that's for the meeting, I think would be the most not really, I really do.
I think the one thing I'll add is that I think we can revisit this and maybe make some changes, but we aren't gonna be able to have a one size fits all, so.
No,
there'll still
yeah,
be
that's right.
special conditions where there will need to be a process to come through because you want to do something that isn't clearly defined within here that's different, and that isn't gonna go away. But maybe the requirements need to be updated, and I think that's fair and worthy of discussion and something that needs to be undertaken.
And just real quick, I'm a retired first sergeant in the Army. If I'm speaking too loud, I'm not yelling at anybody in here. I speak to formations. So keep that in mind. You
Yes, Tom.
tell me to tone it down a little bit. My wife gets pretty excited about that.
Zoning is always. There's a technical side of zoning, but there's also the side of zoning that deals with values of other people and opinions. That they're heard, they don't have a veto necessarily, but they need to be heard.
Yes.
That's the key, is to keep that in balance. Not to go, no, it's just to say, consider. But I believe that the standard needs to be addressed
I agree.
and updated appropriately. But thank you for the comments, really, I like the
And
dialogue.
thank you all for your engagement. That's a lot more than I think I've ever seen at one of these meetings.
Well, usually when there's a big crowd, it's some controversial issue. Then there is yelling.
It's not free beer night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But tonight, there wasn't that much controversy, it was just good discussion.
That was a great discussion. This is awesome. I love that.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. All right, so so we'll have that on the agenda, the minutes from last meeting, I can't comment because I wasn't here.
I tried to do my best
All
to,
right.
You did a good job.
well, you realize I can't hardly type with my right hand, right?
Yes,
Okay.
but that's all right. All right, I'm.
And it's hard to conduct a meeting in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have fun with these.
And remember, if you have to take minutes, somebody's out, it is on the owl.
Yeah.
So you can listen to this wonderful discussion all over.
I don't think.
I'm sorry to abandon you all.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Yay. A second. Okay. Okay, all in favor of the minutes approved from last month?
Aye.
All opposed? Who's gonna make that?
Fire Jack Mitchell from.
Take that. No, you can move, we adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
I second.
We're out of here.
Like,
No, these are
Brent?
counselors.
It's all good.
Close. Geez, I almost fell too.
All right.